Have you ever been so thoroughly underestimated by someone that they mistook your silence for weakness, only to discover, far too late, that your silence was the sound of the axe being sharpened? Let me tell you about the night everything changed. My name is Daniel, and I wasn't supposed to be at that dinner party. In fact, I'd told my wife Vanessa that I'd be staying in. Maybe catching up on some work emails, maybe watching the game. She was out with her usual crowd, hosting some small gathering at a new bistro. Just drinks, she said. Casual night. Just wine, laughter, and friends. That's what she told me. But something in her tone had been gnawing at me for weeks now. That distant hum in her voice, like she was talking to me from the other end of a tunnel. So I changed my mind. I showed up. I wish I could say I was surprised by what happened next. Vanessa sat there, draped in one of her designer dresses, too tight for her age but perfect for her performance. The table was full of her friends, faces I'd come to recognize as smug and shallow, all raising their glasses in shallow toasts. I'd barely taken a sip of my wine when she said it. "You're not man enough to leave." She said it with a smirk curling around her glass, her voice sweet and slow, loud enough for the entire table to hear. Few of them laughed. Others just looked at me, waiting to see if I'd join in. Like I was expected to chuckle along at my own emasculation. I didn't. I didn't slam my glass or flip the table. I just set my fork down with a quiet, deliberate clink that somehow sounded louder than her insult. Then I looked at her, really looked at her, not as the woman I'd married, but as the stranger she'd become. Heavy makeup, loud laugh, desperate for attention, always performing. She needed an audience. And I wasn't playing that role anymore. I wiped my mouth with the napkin, stood up slowly, and said just 2 words. "We'll see." For a moment, just half a breath, her smirk faltered. That was all I needed. I left the restaurant without raising my voice, without a dramatic exit. Just a man leaving for good, calm and steady. But let's be clear, that dinner wasn't the beginning of the end. It was merely the conclusion of a long, quiet prelude. You see, Vanessa had been too busy basking in the glow of her own ego to notice what I'd been seeing for months. The whispered calls in the guest room, the new shopping bags from boutiques we couldn't afford, the sudden obsession with privacy on our shared devices. No, I didn't just leave on a whim. I had been preparing. Months before, I started unlinking my personal accounts from our joint emails, rerouting my paychecks to a private account, backing up every important document. She thought I was distracted, losing my edge. In truth, I was sharpening it. That night, after leaving the restaurant, I didn't go to a hotel or bar. I drove home, parked a few houses down, and slipped into my own house like a ghost. She wasn't home yet, of course, still soaking in the afterglow of her little performance. I went straight to my office, the one room she never entered unless she needed something signed. I grabbed my fireproof bag hidden behind the HVAC panel. Inside were passports, insurance policies, birth certificates. I added my laptop, encrypted drives, and a few other essentials. Before I left, I walked upstairs to the bedroom. I opened her jewelry drawer, slid aside her velvet-lined tray, and left a simple white envelope. No angry note, no dramatic flourish. Just one word on the front. Tomorrow. Because tomorrow, Vanessa's world would start to collapse. Slowly, methodically, like a building whose supports had been quietly dismantled. She had said I wasn't man enough to leave. She had no idea who she was talking to. You see, I'd worked in finance for 34 years. I knew how to dismantle a life, not with screaming or threats, but with cold, calculated precision. Downstairs, I poured myself a scotch I didn't even drink and opened the spreadsheet I'd been refining for months. 3 tabs. 1. Assets. 2. Liabilities. 3. Exit strategy. Her name was once everywhere on that sheet. Now she was just a fading series of gray cells. One by one, I closed accounts, shifted investments, transferred assets to a private trust she'd never know existed. Her boutique-fueled shopping spree was about to run into a brick wall. By morning, her cards would be declined. The utilities would be set to shut off in a week. The auto payments stopped. And the monthly $3 $800 deposit I'd been sending to our joint account. I changed it to $0. I didn't hesitate. Just pressed enter like flipping off a light switch. That night, as she stumbled home, tipsy and giddy, still laughing at some text from whatever man was dangling on her hook, I sat in the dark watching. She passed me without noticing. I could have been a chair for all she cared. Once she collapsed into bed, I got to work, moving through the house with the precision of a surgeon. Collecting documents, wiping drives, securing my escape. The last thing I did was slide that key to the filing cabinet under the rug by the door. Let her call a locksmith. Before leaving, I placed that envelope, tomorrow, in her nightstand drawer and glanced at her one final time. Not with love. Not even with hatred. Just with the cold curiosity of a man watching a house burn that he no longer calls home. Then I walked out the front door at 2:23 a.m. No jacket. No drama. Just the quiet click of freedom. By sunrise, I was checked into a cheap roadside motel, drinking terrible coffee and reviewing the final stages of my exit. Every account, closed. Every asset, protected. Every trace of me, gone. Meanwhile, Vanessa was about to get her first taste of reality. Later that day, she strutted into her favorite boutique with her friends. Heels clicking, sunglasses indoors, playing the queen. She picked out a pair of expensive heels, her divorce shoes, she joked, and handed over the black card. Declined. She laughed, thinking it was a fluke. The cashier calmly took a pair of scissors, snipped the card in half, and dropped it into a security bin. She went pale. Tried another card. Declined. Again. Declined. Her friends watched in stunned silence as she fumbled, stammering about how Dennis was just being petty. But deep down she knew. This wasn't pettiness. This wasn't a tantrum. This was architecture. Back at home, her panic only grew. Her banking apps were locked. Passwords changed. Cards frozen. Counts closed. Every safety net gone. And she hadn't even opened that envelope yet. But she would. And when she did, Vanessa would finally understand what real power looks like. Not loud. Not angry. Just silent, precise, and absolute. The kind of power wielded by a man who waited, calmly, until the day he decided to walk away. And by then, there was nothing left for her to hold on to. Tomorrow came. And I wasn't there to see it.